I'm here in Rhode Island on this middle of nowhere road in this tiny town where we have giant farm fields over here, the ocean over here, past the house, right down there. We have trees and we have the sun. It's one of my favorite places in the world, honestly. Like, I have a bookmark on my phone of some of my most favorite places to visit, and whenever I'm near, I always make sure I pop by. I'm kind of just walking through this. I'm like, why is this one of my favorite places to be? I mean, I'm looking at the clouds. Like, I have clouds back home in my own town. I look at the fields and the farms. I'm like, I have fields and I have farms back home too. Like, I have the trees, but I have those back home. Like, I have the ocean too. And I think it's like not being able to see the forest through the trees, or like, you don't ever really appreciate a single tree when you have a forest there. You kind of just look at it and like, oh, well, that's a bunch of trees. That's what a bunch of trees is supposed to be. But I think it's like some combination of the ocean with the farmland and even the road itself and the houses and the civilization around it in the clouds. It's like we have massive trees, not too massive, we have nice oak trees and stuff, but we also have the farmland and we have the ocean, and they all complement each other so well that you can go by looking at one of them and look at another one. And I think it's the contrast really that allows me to fully appreciate and love this place so much. But anyways, the video I wanted to make for today. So there's a book called The World's Greatest Salesman, and in the book you read one chapter first thing in the morning, after lunch, and right before bed, 3 times a day for a month. And you do this through the 10 chapters, and you basically, it's a method of brainwashing. It's not necessarily brainwashing. It's like, by forming this habit, you're kind of like constantly redirecting, making sure you're on the correct course. Like, every single day when you go through the book, you're examining how you're living versus how the book talks about how you should be living, and then you're making adjustments to your life, and then you look at it again and you make more adjustments, and you look at it again, you make more adjustments, and you look at it again, you make more adjustments, and you keep doing this, and it's like you're slowly like, because of the power of habits and how long it actually takes. Like, I feel like ever since I finished reading the first of the chapters, which is on the power of habits, and it talks about the principles of forming a good habit and how only a habit can subdue another habit. So it's not actually that you have an issue of a bad habit or you have to stop the bad habit. It's that you need to find something to replace that bad habit with. Anyways, like, it's only been the last week, which is days like 25 through 30 of me reading this multiple times a day, that I actually feel like I'm starting to understand it enough to put it into practice and start implementing the stuff into my life. But I just find it so helpful to like read the book. And now I started on chapter 2 today, and there's this one line where it's like, I rarely inspect all the things that enter my mind and my body. Give me 2 seconds. The book's on my phone, so I would, however, recommend not getting the audio version of the book, because I tried to do this with the audio version, but for some reason, call it time-saving hacks, I would listen to the chapter while doing other activities. I wouldn't be fully engaged in it. I wouldn't be fully contemplating what it was saying. And that basically just led to, I wasn't able to like maintain the habit. I wasn't able to stay in it, because I started seeing it as, oh, I could put this on ×2 speed and I could listen to it faster. So instead of it taking like 12 minutes, it would take 6 minutes. I mean, that completely defeats the purpose of what I was doing. But at the time, I was like, productivity hacked for the win. But okay, I have many folders on my phone. Okay, day 2. I will zealously inspect all things which enter my body, my mind, my soul, and my heart. Never will I overindulge in requests of the flesh. Rather, I will cherish my body in cleanliness and moderation. Never will I allow my mind to attract evil to it and despair. Rather, I will uplift it with the knowledge and wisdom of the ages. Never will I allow my soul to become complacent or satisfied. Rather, I will feed it with meditation and prayer. Never will I allow my heart to become small and bitter. Rather, I will share it, and it will grow and warm the earth. So, I mean, you might read that and think, oh, it's another nice little motivational message. We should frame that and put it in the bathroom or something. But no, the point is, like, when you read this, you're gonna read this 90 times over the course of a month, spread out, and you're gonna be constantly reflecting on it and seeing how you can apply it to your life. You're gonna have different thoughts based on the different environments you go into. And I feel like the zealously inspecting all things that enter my mind, I feel like I've broken out of the habit of going on my phone first thing in the morning, which is one thing I always recommend people against doing. I made a video about, was just staying off your phone for the first hour in the day and noticing all the triggers in your mind that make you want to look at it. And once you become more aware of those, then it's easier to sustain this habit in the long run. I also talk about how I don't like TV. Well, it's not that I don't like it, it's I don't think it's something I want to allow in my life at this moment, because it has such a great potential for sucking you in and just wasting, at least how I would see it, wasting hours and hours, even days of your life. I mean, you get sucked into a TV series, I mean, let's just say 5 seasons, 20 episodes per season, talking about 100 hours there. What could you do with 100 hours of your life? Worst of all, sometimes I'd watch these TV shows while doing other work. So not only was I wasting my time, but I was also half-assing other opportunities and other things that I was trying to actually learn. And the best way to learn is through intensity, which is to shut out other distractions and solely focus on the one thing you're trying to do with the most amount of muster and concentration you can manage. But anyways, with going forward, I do like just the high degree of discernment about what you allow your mind to even have access to, because thoughts present themselves to your mind, and then the only decision you really get to make is whether or not you want to capture that thought and go with it, or to let it go and not go with it. You don't necessarily get to decide on what thoughts will appear, but when you decide whether or not you go with a thought, that in itself, I had a thorn in my foot, that in itself will influence later thoughts that will show up. So when you're watching or when you're consuming something, what you are consuming is going to influence what thoughts you have in your mind, which is then going to influence the choices and the thoughts your mind presents to you. And you are only capable in so much as deciding whether or not to take action on a certain thought. So through all of this, I'm going to try to make the better decisions when those thoughts present themselves to me of what to even put into my mind. Because through all of this, through the last couple of years, one thing I've realized is it's like a double-edged thing. It's like at the same time how little control we actually have of our own minds, which is one thing meditation has taught me, and one thing being more aware has taught me, is just how little control of it we have. And then the other thing that it's shown me is how just the simple action of, you don't have control about what thoughts will appear in your mind. You don't have control about a lot of this stuff, but one thing you can control is whether or not you take action upon that thought. And then down the line, that will influence the thoughts that will show up into your head. And you just keep doing this, and through choosing to better yourself and make better decisions and keeping and constantly working on it, you then keep having these better thoughts present themselves, these better ways of living, these better ideas present themselves, and then you can now work on those ideas. But you don't really ever have like these quantum leaps in ways of being. It's like these slow adjustments, and you're like, maybe I won't eat that bag of chocolate. Well, maybe I won't open that bag of chocolate today. And then that thought kicks in this thing of like, ooh, that felt kind of nice to like not spike my blood sugar. And then down the line, it's also like the more you walk a certain path, the easier it is to be walked. So there is a great degree of difficulty associated with changing the thoughts that you decide to normally take action upon. Because even though I say you have a choice on what thoughts you can grab a hold of, if you're used to grabbing a hold of a certain thought and just going with it, it is very difficult to actually let go of that and choose a different route. But the more you do it, the more easy it is to do. Anyways, in trying to describe the mind, I just go off on rambles of thought patterns in my own head. When an action presents itself, your thought presents itself in your head, you deem it to be of the good kind, grab a hold of it and start doing it, and then you eventually start grabbing a hold of all the good thoughts. You get used to doing that, and then once that becomes habitual, you're able to listen to like that intuition within your head. Even now, I am grabbing a hold of the thought of, let's go for a walk. And I'm like, well, in my head, I have a little list, and walks are on the good habits. So I'm going to do that right now, and we're going to see what happens next. So next time something presents itself to you, even if you don't know exactly why, like, you have to take action on it immediately and kind of go with it, because if you hesitate necessarily, you might not have that thought present itself to you again, and who knows where your life would end up then. If you're interested on spiritual awakening or more about me, click this video here, which talks about the awakening I had when I was in Europe, and how it kind of felt like I was coming out of this matrix of constantly distracting myself and actually becoming alert to my own thoughts. So